Good morning. It's Sunday, December the 1st. December Fool's Day. Way to go. The 1st of December already. 2024. My goodness. And it's 7:15 in the morning, and I'm out in the garage. I'm going to dump the gas out of this bike and replace the rubberized washer assembly up in here. It's got a name. Somebody just mentioned it in the comments and I never remember. So I'm going to replace that rubber O-ring metal washer with the flat washer assembly and see if I can solve this gas leak. So I'm going to let that drain for a while I go in and make breakfast. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this, put a piece of tubing onto here, and just drain it down into this bucket as much as I can. Then I will take one of these troughs that I've made over the years, or I'll make another one, and put it underneath of the whole petcock assembly, sort of like so. And then unscrew the petcock and drain the rest of the tank down into that bucket. So I'll show you how it goes when I set up the two methods and then start to change the petcock. All right, let's see how this preliminary draining of the tank goes. This particular petcock, the lever goes up, while on the other side the lever goes down. I'm going to disassemble this thing because I think that, well, I don't know, it says reserve, so maybe that's right. Anyway, that's the, maybe that's the first drain. We'll let that drain for a while, getting off the probably gallon or so of gas I've got in that tank. Well, here's the petcock on the other side. And yeah, the handle would go down, so it points to the on, whereas on the other side, the handle goes up, so it points to reserve at the bottom. Okay. And if I flip those over, they would be upside down. So, all right, I'll leave them as is. Not my cup of tea. Okay. All right, this has been draining, and still draining. I just leave it going until it stops. Then I'll do the aluminum trough thing, unless I get really bored. Now, I should note that over here on the floor is the electric heater. It's a ceramic type electric heater, and I mean it pumps out the heat. It's currently turned off. I never turn it on when I'm doing this because there might be fumes that are generated. Oh, it looks like it's starting to stop. Cool. There might be fumes that are generated over here. I could possibly spill some of this. And gas fumes are heavier than air, I believe. And I would not want gas fumes to wander off of the lift and across the floor and shake hands with the electric heater. So I always turn the electric heater off when I'm playing with gasoline, as in putting it into a tank that I'm not sure will actually hold it, putting in new petcocks, setting the bike up for a first start and turning the gas on for the first time. All these things that could generate a gas leak. I have the heater turned off, and there's Mr. Spunky down there. So anyway, it looks like I've exhausted the gas on this side down to the level of the petcock, which usually leaves about ½ inch of gas in the bottom of the tank that comes gushing out when you take this off. So I'm going to set up the aluminum chute and see if I can get the rest of that out of there. Another thing that's joyful is when I walked out, I noticed the shine over here, and we got a leaky fork. It's leaked out all of that overnight. And if you put your finger right here, Yeah, there's the oil leaking right out of there. Yeah, it's pretty bad. This side, take a look at the other side. This side's pretty dry. I think this side's dry. I'm not sure whether I've got more oil on my hand. Let's see. I think that's just my hand. It doesn't matter. If we take this off, we'll replace both of them. I happen to have a set, so it's a set of seals. So there we are. That may be something else. And yeah, that's where we are. I'm going to set up the aluminum trough now and see if I can get the rest of this gas out of this bike. Well, let's see how this goes. Petcocks usually fit a Whitworth wrench you can get on the body and rotate them. Let's see if I can get this handle down. That'll make it easier to rotate. There we go. All right. Prepare for a gusher. Won't be darned. Usually I get about a half a quart of gas out of the bottom of an empty tank. Huh. I'll be darned. Okay, the O-ring washer is right here. And it seems to be in just fine shape. Let's see how. All right, it's got the O-ring washer here. It feels and bundles just fine. I'll replace it. And here's the flat washer that backs it up, and the adjustment tightening nut. That's feels like somebody put Loctite on it. Wish they wouldn't do that. All right, so I'll loosen that up and put it back together. That's the second time that this new iPhone 16 has just turned off the video all by itself. I have no idea how much of that last video you got. Okay, let's recap. I was tightening down the petcock into the tank, and I was turning it very gently, and it snapped in half. So I used an easy out to pull these threads out of the tank. This happens again. I'm going to have to talk to Apple. I say, hi, Apple. And they'll say, oh, hi, Mr. Domwini. How can we help you today? They are so wonderfully happy. So anyway, here's the broken petcock, here's the threads, and I'm supposing, and I'm going to toss out the opinion, that there was a fracture here and that's why it was leaking, because the sealing nuts and washer that I took off of this thing were perfectly good. They looked perfectly good. So when I put it back in, and if you get any of the video from the previous time, you'll notice that I'm turning it very gently. I wasn't cranking on it, and it just fractured. And I had that happen once before on my Norton. No, that fitting was, I think it was plastic, so I don't know. I can't remember, too many years ago. So that's where we are now. I got to get a different petcock. Well, I just got back from my good buddy Roger's place. He buys and sells old inventories of parts, new parts, old parts, used parts. He breaks bikes down and sells parts. And he's about, I'd say about 10 blocks away from here, so it's really handy to have him around. I went down and got 2 brand new petcocks to replace this one broken one and its mate. I'm going to take the locking nuts off these petcocks, put them into my spares. I'm going to take the filter off of this one, which is still good and reusable, put it into my spares. This filter was just all messed up anyway, so I'm going to throw it away. I'm going to put all this into the junk box that'll go back to the client when I turn the bike over to him. Also, I went ahead and got from him a good used 12-volt coil, which I will put onto the 3T over here, the bathtub bike, because it's running a 12-volt system with a 6-volt ignition coil. So I've got a 12-volt coil I put on here. And what we do is we just charge half the price of brand new, and it's available, and it works just fine, thank you. And if it works just fine, thank you, that'll be the end of it. Cool, so I'll put that over here someplace safe so that I have that when I need it. Right there on the shelf of stuff. Okay, so I've got the new coil for this guy. Now I'm going to put these petcocks in, hook everything up, and that's where I was before I was, when I was getting started. It's 10 after 10, and I've been out here since about, I think, 7:30 or so, and just getting back to where I was. All right, video is running. Okay, I'm going to put these petcocks in. It's a little warmer out. I just opened the garage door, so at least that's open, and it's warm. And pretty soon I'll go ahead and take off this sweater. At least one layer will come off. It's nice rather than the turtleneck and sweater. One thing about living out here where it's basically always warm is you never acclimate to when it gets cold. So, gotta worry about that. I'm gonna put new. Let's see. That's new. These are the old. Yeah, those are the old. And I'm gonna get new. Absolutely beautiful. So I'll reuse one of those. And I'm going to put those in my emergency spares anyway because there it is. Fine, thank you. Okay, I'm going to put these into my spares. And I'm going to put that in there just in case someday I may need it. Somewhere in here. Let's find a spot. That's a nice spot. These are all concentric parts. Monoblocks and concentrics. Okay. reserve, the one with no standoff over on the left side of the bike, and the main on the right side of the bike. All I'm doing here is sealing the threads. Alright, so we're going to tighten this in until we have a nice close to perfect positioning, which is right about there. And then gently, once again, this is where we were before when it broke. This is a different style. Big wrench, small place. This tank has a lip here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a lip here in front of the petcock, making it difficult to reach the bolt, the nut. and snug without breaking. I'll go to the other side. Can you see a full width? Yeah, you can see a little bit. I don't know why AFI lock just came on. All right. Getting to that locking nut is a real bother here with this lip in the way. It's a very stylish lip. It is in the way. Okay, there we go. One flat. Alright, that's tight. Good. Use the big wrench to hold the body of the valve, like so, while you tighten the smaller nut. 2 petcocks installed. I will not make you watch me put gas into the gas tank. It gets kind of sloppy and it's boring, so I'll let you go for a while I put the gas in the tank. Okay, interesting. I just started this video 3 times in a row, and as I stood here waiting for it to, it comes on, and as I stood there, it just turned itself off. So I turned it on, it turned itself off. I turned it on, it turned itself off. I looked over to the left and I saw some new little yellow figure, and I pressed it and it said action on. And I pressed it again and said, and I tried it. I don't know if I tried it. Anyway, and I said, action off. It was an action off or on, I don't remember which. It's now recording. I've got something else to watch for now that I'm doing these videos. Anyway, both petcocks are on. I've got half a tank of gas in the bike, and I'm going to go turn the petcocks on one at a time and check for leakage. The easiest way is with something clean and dry. Let's turn this one on. Let's see if we have whether we have a runaway carburetor again. You just never know. Okay, we have no indication of leakage or seepage on this side. Carburetor's not overflowing yet. Let's go to the other side. I don't feel anything over here. Let's turn this petcock on. We have fluid flowing. Nothing. We have okay. We seem to have gas flow out of both sides and no leakage. Okay, well, it seems like the petcocks are A, installed, B, not seeping any gas, C, not leaking. Interestingly, I had a thought. If the seepage I found this morning when I first came out here and decided to change out this petcock, if that seepage was actually coming from a fracture in the base of the petcock where it goes up into the gas tank, if that leakage or seepage was actually from a fracture, that petcock could have failed while the bike was riding, while you're riding down the road, that fracture. And if it had, the whole petcock would have fallen out, and the gas would have gone all over the hot motorcycle, and bad things could have happened. I mean, at absolute worst, you get gas all over your rear tire and lose traction. Traction. Gas all over your back tire and lose traction. At worse than that, you get a fire. I'm glad that I saw it. I'm glad that I caught it. I'm glad that I changed it. Okay. So that's where we are for a while. I'm going to check out the points and initial static timing. We're going to do static timing now. I have the bike sitting here with the rear wheel up in the air. I'll be able to turn the motor over. I've pulled the spark plugs out, and I'm going to use the rear wheel to turn the motor over to set the timing mark to full advance at 32 degrees through this access hole. Okay, so I thought I'd show you a tool that I made. I've shown you before, but I'll show you again. This little tool used to be one piece, and it was like this. And that way you could use it to open the Norton access caps by hand. So I chopped it off, and I had my neighbor, Richard, weld on some 7/16 sockets, making them individual openers. The joy of these is that now I can use them on my impact tool, like so, rather than trying to do them by hand. Now, believe it or not, I'm going to get some pushback on this, but think before you push. This allows me to put this on here, like so, and then holding the impact tool, I can push this thing directly, straight into the slot, okay, like so, all the way into the slot, and I'm pressing straight in. I'm not working at a right angle. I don't have a handle on there at a right angle. I've got it straight in. Normally I'd hold this with both hands, but I'm going to show you that this opens it without hopping out of the slot. That's the nice part. If you're doing it by hand, you tend to go sideways. Let's hope this works, because I'm doing it live with one hand. Like that. Just that fast. Okay? Quick, no hop, no damage, no worry about sliding out of the slot. Okay? So yeah, it seems strange, seems dangerous. It's not. You can take all of these out using this technique a whole lot easier and a whole lot safer than if you try to use something here with a ratchet on the end, because this way you're twisting to the side. Okay? This way you're going straight in, and you can apply pressure to keep the end of the tool in the slot on the inspection cap, and they don't pop out and they don't get damaged. True poop, guys, true poop. If you're going to take me to task for it, think twice, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to set this thing up to full advanced now. Stand by. All right, I'm going to put the bike in gear now, 4th gear, and which, since the shifter's facing backwards, should be up instead of down. I'm gonna have to think on that, unless they've changed something inside the transmission. So let's see, if I go down, that should be first, and it is. Now go up for neutral. Okay. Second, third, and 4th gear. Now I can use that to turn the bike over, turn the engine over. Well, if that last video came out with no audio, I spent a lot of time explaining why using my new little super tools to take the inspection caps off makes life easier. These videos are getting more and more complex now that I'm using this earpiece with the boom mic and the new iPhone 16, which is making me nuts. So anyway, I've got the bike in 4th gear, spark plugs out. I'm going to rotate the engine until I'm at full advanced. Now, coming up on it, I think this Norton only has one marking, but let's just go around till we come up on compression. Okay, we're coming up on compression here. And there's our timing mark for 32 degrees. Taking out the slack. Dead nuts on 30. Wrong. Yeah. Let's double check that. 28 degrees. All right. 28 degrees. So much the better. This one doesn't have a notch in it. Don't know why. All right, 28 degrees. Yeah. There you go. Just didn't feel right when I was doing it. I've been working on too many bikes lately. All right, 28 degrees, dead nuts on. Parallax and all. Over here, one of these points should just be breaking. I'm going to go over and eyeball it, and then we'll do it with a meter. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I hate these things. I hate mechanical points. That's wide open. And this one's up in the air off the lift. So you should be rotating this way, I believe, which would make this one just barely opening. But that advance just doesn't want to move. Usually I can move it by hand. Huh. It's got a strange washer there. Stand by. Usually you can jiggle this, you know, and I don't see it jiggling. All right, that advanced unit seems to be frozen. Okay, that's yeah, it's frozen pretty good. I can just barely move it. Well, I'm going to take this whole thing apart. Everything comes out, clean up the advanced unit because it's pretty well stuck. And we'll be back after this station break for all of our good commercial customers. Right. All right, let's take this points plate out and the advance unit. Let's get these wires off first. Now don't forget, the wires go underneath this plastic insulator. They don't go on top. If they go on top, they just short out and you'll get no ignition. Now you can either take these insulators out of the wires now or find them on the floor later. So I take those out now. I marked black, white here, black yellow here, because even though the book tells you which one goes to which one, there's absolutely nothing guaranteeing that the last guy who did this put them in the proper way at this the improper way at this end and compensated at the other end, because that's all you have to do is change both wires. So I mark them. I've got a magnetic dish over here. I'm putting these parts in. All right. Let's get this plate out of here. Comes out. Okay, let's look at these. They're very sluggish, very sticky. All right, getting this out is supposed to be really hard. What we do is stick a drift in it, like so. And take it out. You don't need any special pullers. You don't need nothing, man. You don't need nothing. Just put a drift in it and tap it down, tap it up, and take it out. Now that little hint is worth its weight in gold. All right, so let's take all this stuff over to the bench and we'll check the face of the points, and we'll take this thing apart and lubricate it. Okay? Heading for the bench. Okay, we're running. This guy's very, very tight. I don't know if you can see how much effort it doesn't bounce back. So let's clean all the grease out of it. I'm not going to take it apart yet. If I can just flush out all of the crud on the shaft, I'll be happy. Other than that, I can take it apart by taking these. What the heck? I might as well. If I'm going to do show and tell, I might as well do show and tell. Let's see if I got a better pair of pliers to do this with. Oh, I broke my special little needle nose. Darn, I like those. I'm gonna have to reshape them. This is getting to be more trouble than it's worth. Okay, that one's off. Now that one's off. Now we can take this off and we can clean this shaft and clean these pivot points. I can actually take this whole thing over and wire wheel it and make it look a little better. I think that I will do just that after I pick that part up off the floor. I'll leave the springs here and I'll go clean up all of this on the wire wheel. I'll be back. All right, I took the parts over and cleaned them on the wire wheel. Now, I'm not going to say that clean parts work better. They do, but I'm not going to say it. But they make me feel better. And I don't like to work with dirty parts. So these are all cleaned up, buffed up, and cleaned with good old carb cleaner. Get all the grease off. So I'm real happy with the way they feel. Put a little bit of oil on there, and you got a nice loose action. Okay, like that. These are 12 degree. This is a 12 degree advanced unit. The ET systems use 5 degrees, but the traditionals use 12 degrees. There's a reason. Don't want to go into it because it's boring. But anyway, so with a traditional points in the timing case system, you use the 12 degree advanced unit, and it moves really easy. See that? Now, the other thing I did is I cleaned the weights and the pivot points for the weights. They go in here and hang on these pits and these little pivot points, and they have to be free also, like so. Everything has to be really, really free. And I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this, but I'm going to show you something that caused me a lot of vexation on my own Norton. Okay, right here in the middle of this area, I'm going to hold this up here and maybe you'll be able to see it. Let's put my hand behind it. Okay, and see if that'll focus in. Can you see this area right here? I'm trying to do this through the camera. That area right there, that's a wear spot. That's mid-range. That's where the shaft that goes through here rests a lot. And it tends to wear a notch right there. And when you come to a stoplight and go back to idle, the advance unit will hang up right there in that notch before it'll finally let go and fall back down to the closed position. That caused me a lot of vexation in my Norton back in the olden days, because I'd pull up to a stop sign, throttle off, and the bike would be running around 3,500 RPM, just idling, and make me nuts. And I went to the carburetors about 6 times and never figured it out. And then one day I had putting fresh points in, and I looked at this and realized that the advance unit's hanging up right there. And that's when I put the Boyer in my bike. And that was late 75. It's a 74 bike, late 75, 76 maybe, when I put the Boyer in, just because of that wear spot. You can see it now even better. Okay? I'm doing this through the camera, trying to figure out which is right and which is left. Okay? Just because of that. And I put the Boyer in there, and it has never missed a beat. So I'm not a real fan of mechanical points, because they have wear spots and all kinds of problems that cause all kinds of problems. Look at that. Look at how that worn it is. It's supposed to be smooth like the other side. Yeah, that's how it was made. Nice smooth curve. I mean, you can see the wear area on this one really easy. Right there. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. So, yeah. I could take a file and file that off, but basically it's not as bad as it, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop for a few minutes because I'm frustrated. I'll probably sand that wear spot a little bit. All right, I took some very fine sandpaper, and let's see if I smooth that out just a little bit. What's going to happen? I'm trying to get the bike back to running as it was. I'm leaving the mechanical points in it. Okay, but once I get it running, and I know it's a bike that will run, I will recommend to the client that we put in an electronic ignition. Also predicated on the fact that we will install a battery because the client wants to put an electric starter on the bike. So we have to have a custom machinist build me a platform for a battery, which will let me put the electric start on. When I put the electric start on, I'll have a battery that can swing an electronic ignition, and we'll do all this at the same time. In the meantime, back at the ranch, I'm going to put this mechanical ignition system back together. Now, I'm going to show you another close-up. See how this works. Okay, these points look like they're brand new. Can you see that? There's just, let's see if I can get this guy to super zoom. Right, I mean, there's almost nothing on those points. They're just clean as a whistle. Yeah, and my skin tone is good too. Let's see now, where am I? There you go. There's the lower ones. Stand by. Oh, here's a flashlight. Looking through the lens. Oh yeah, there you go. You can see, I mean, see that little spot? That's it. That's all there is. Not hardly worn at all. So I'm just going to polish those just a little bit. There. Well, those are very, very clean. Okay, let's go back to the bench. I'll show you something else. This is an ultra fine file used for polishing contacts on switches used in computers. And I have it left over from my computer days. And I use this to polish the points when I polish points. These are great. They don't need anything, but I'm just going to go through here just a little bit and just do that just a little bit. Just to clean those points. Just a tad bit to take off any microscopic stuff that might be there. With this ultrafine file used for actually gold switches in computers. And now, just to go through here and take off any little dust. Just clean them a little bit with that. And 90% of what I'm doing is stupid and superfluous. But what the heck. Let's put this back together. This is where we get to do the springs in reverse. This is a wonderful opportunity for a spring to go spring. Spring the springs and spring the springs. Oh, by the way, these pins that these rotate on, they will come loose. And you may have to ball peen the backside to tighten them up. I've seen them just wobbly as can be. All right, so this, we should put this on here, like so. Nice and loose. See that? All right, now we got to hook the springs back to that little peg in there and this peg out here. So the best thing to do is take this back out, hook the springs to it, because they're difficult to get on just a little bit. There we go. All right, let's put this back on here. Now, I gotta recontour those special pliers. Let's see if I can do this with these other pliers. And the answer is yes. I could use a spring hook. There it goes. Okay, springs are back on their little hooks. The weights are free. The weights get pulled back. Got all of 12 degrees here. This is clean. Points are clean. All of this can go back in the bike. And the fun just never stops. All right, well, the next step in this odyssey is to set the gap of the points at 14 thousandths, and then to install everything over there and rotate this to where each point just barely opens up when the timing is set to full advanced. Now, one of the things you want to do is lock this at full advance. And it's not, I mean, it's not hard. I mean, you can work out here and just, like I showed you before, just turning this by hand, okay? Or if you make a little tool like this, this is 3 washers, a small washer and 2 big ones stacked up and soldered together. Give you a close-up of this. Let's see. Okay, there it is. It's 3 washers stacked up, soldered together. Smaller one, 2 bigger ones. The bigger ones press on the cam. Where am I? This is so difficult. All right. The bigger ones press on the cam, and the smaller one is held in place by the bolt. So you can spread the little wings, bolt it down, and this special tool will hold it fully advanced. Okay? Like so. Spread them out and tighten it down, and it will hold them. Let's go over and put these in place. All right, so we're going to put the advance unit into the bike and tighten it down with the wings, the weights, all the way out and tighten down. We're not worried about where the timing is at this point in time. We're just setting the gap on these points. So. Okay, spread the weights out. All the way, you're now fully advanced. Like so. Tighten that down. And the cam is now locked at full advance. Now we can put this in here and move it around to check the gap on these points. When it's up here on the top of the cam, it should be 14 thou, like so. Right about there. That one should be right about 14,000. This one should be closed. When you rotate it around the other way, this should be right around 14 thousandths. Get in there. There we go, and that's much closer. That's way too small. All right. All right, so I'm going to stop for a minute and get ready to adjust these points. I'll get a feeler gauge and I will be right back. All right, I'm going to set the gap on these points. I'm not setting the timing, just setting the gap. Okay, so let's set the gap to 14 thousandths on each of these sets, on each of these points. I've got the advance unit locked and the lobe is up here. So all I have to do is rotate this guy. And this one is now at the high point right there. It's barely opening. Let's go over here and try this guy. Right there. If that's 14, and I don't think it is. It's a very tight 14. And this is barely open. All right. Then we can try the other way, the proper way. We can actually bolt this thing down and see if it makes a difference. I don't think it will. Now we get to turn the cam instead of turning the plate. Remember, all we're trying for is gap, not timing. Okay, there. Now, just for grins, in case anybody's wondering, we could put this in here to add spring tension. Doesn't make any difference, but we can. Not putting the wires on yet. Okay, now, let's rotate the engine. I'm going to check this right now because we're on the high side of the cam now. Okay, should have 14th thou on this side. And it's a very snug 14th thou. That's an eccentric. Let's see, let's loosen that. That's a nice 14th thou. Let's see if it holds it once I tighten the screw. Okay. All right. That's a lovely 14th thou. And it's holding all the way around the back side of the cam. Going up on the other side of the cam. Here's the mark. It's just a good place to measure. And it's right underneath here. We should have 14 thousandths gap here. Once again, it's very tight 14. I mean, it's to the point where I can hang it there. So I'll just open that gap just a little bit. That's a sloppy 14. That's a very nice 14 right there. So I'm just gonna tighten that down. All right, doesn't matter that it moved, believe me. All right, so we're still right there. And we have, oh, very nice 14. Won't support itself, so it's very nice. Okay, so we've got a nice 14th thou gap on both of the individual points. And they're locked. All right, good. So now we set the actual timing, okay? So what we need to do is go over to the other side, make sure we're still set exactly and precisely on 28 degrees. Go inside, go on. So, it's on 28 degrees. One of these guys should be in just barely breaking. And actually, we can be really scientific about this. I can make sure which cylinder it is, just for grins. Okay, we're coming up on the left cylinder. Exactly 28 degrees, theoretically on the left cylinder. And according to Das book, the left cylinder, let's get the book back up. Yellow and black is the left cylinder, theoretically. So if it's wired properly, the one with yellow and black, which is here, black and yellow, should be just on the ramp and just starting to open. Let's see if it is. Actually, we have to set it so that it's just opening. I'm gonna get the I'm gonna go get the meter, get things set up. Be right back. Well, the phone did it to me again. I lost that whole video on setting the points to just break at full advance. Anyway, it's done. I did it with a meter. And I can't even show you because I've already unlocked the advance unit, and you just really can't move it that easily. Let's see, watch the meter if you can. Let's see if I can move the advance unit by hand. Oh well, I can't really show it to you. So anyway, the points were gapped at 14, set it to full advance on the timing mark, set the rotor full advanced, locked it in place, and set each of these points to just brake, just barely brake at full advance. And theoretically, that timing should be set well enough for it to run. All right, so today I said, this morning when I came out, I was going to fix the leaky petcock, which took a lot longer because I had to replace both petcocks. I was going to set the points gap to 14 thou, which I did, and set each of the points to just barely braking at full static advance, which I did. So with the static ignition setting set to full advance on both sides, with both sides set to full advance, it should run now that it has points and gas and compression. The thing of it was, the third thing I was going to do, which we could hook up a battery to the ignition system, I didn't get to. And it's going on 3 o'clock now, and I'm tired. And so I'm going to call it a day. May do more tomorrow, may not. So we're getting there, but that's as far as I'm going today.